Hello YouTube, I'm Joe and you're watching my channel Ink&Iron, and today I'm coming at you with a knife review for this guy, the Kizer Begleiter. Begleiter? Something like that. German name for a Chinese made knife, and let's get right into the specifications. So this is made by Kizer. The Begleiter name is German for companion, and this is made in China, so this is an overseas knife. However, it does have American-made components, which we'll get into. The price is $169, I believe, right now at Blade HQ, and I got it for $144 because Kizer had a sale in December. Okay, so the blade length is 107.7 millimeters or 4.2 inches long, and that is measuring from this part right here to the very tip. If you're measuring just the cutting portion of the blade, it is 96.4 millimeters or 3.8 inches. The stock thickness, that is this part right here, how thick the blade steel begins, that is 3.05 millimeters or 0.12 inches. The blade width, so that's going to be this measurement, sort of like the height of the blade. The blade width is 25.5 millimeters or right about 1 inch exactly. The blade steel is S35VN. I can prove it to you. It is labeled. The grind on this guy is a compound grind featuring a hollow on this flat portion right here. And then we have a Tanto style upsweep with its own just a flat grind, basically from this point outwards to the almost chisel-like tip here. That's very indicative of a Tanto. We do also have a fuller or blood groove if you're one of those knife collectors. The behind the edge thickness, so right here, right where the bevel starts, you can see it shining right there, 0.46 millimeters or 18.5 thousandths of an inch. The handle material is a nondescript titanium. I couldn't figure out what grade of titanium this was. Blade HQ's website just said titanium. The pocket clip is also titanium, as you can tell, milled out there, very nice. The handle thickness is going to be 12 millimeters or 0.47 inches. The handle length, so this whole length right here, the longest point I could find, was 117.5 millimeters or 4.6 inches. The lock type on this guy is a frame lock, stainless steel insert for longevity as well. The opening mechanism is technically a flipper tab. And I know what you're thinking, that's a pretty small flipper tab. And you're right, we will have more to say about this later, but technically this is a frame lock flipping knife. The weight on this guy is 89 grams or 3.14 ounces. Pretty light considering it is just over 3.5 inch or 90 millimeter blade length. I have a measurement called maximum in-pocket width that is describing the maximum width in this closed dimension right here. This is how much it intrudes into, say, a front pocket of your pants. That's how I like to carry a blade. The maximum was right here, is 26.4 millimeters or 1.04 inches, just over an inch for you Americans. The clip positions, just one clip position, just right side tip up carry. Is it ambidextrous? I'm gonna say not really, although it's not awful to use with the left hand. It's really not intended for left-handed carry because of the singular pocket clip position. And lastly, the pivot on here, as you can see, has a nice blue accent, but it is riding on ball bearings. And I have taken a look at them. They are high quality and really lend themselves to a great action. So I have a lot to say about this knife, and I'd like to get into it as soon as possible. Okay, let's get into it on the Kizer Begleiter here. The philosophy of use, to borrow a term from Nut and Fancy's reviews, the philosophy of use for this guy is EDC. However, this is going to be a little bit too large for probably most of you. I live in Colorado, and the legal carry size for a knife is 3.5 inches for a concealed carry folding knife. And any way I measure this, it is slightly over 3.5 inches. So Blade HQ's information was a little bit misleading. I got like 3.56 was the shortest way to measure any point along here all the way to the tip. So yeah, this might face some legality issues for a lot of you. And I'm going to say right up front, it's 2021. I've been in quarantine a long time. I'm using this at home for the most part. And for that use, I really love it. So I'm going to say EDC or maybe just casual home use and sort of a nice piece to have in the collection. It's not always such a bad thing. Specifically the blade, as I said, a little bit too large for maybe carrying out and about in the world. However, the utility of this blade, absolutely phenomenal. The blood groove, the fuller, doesn't do much for me personally. However, the behind the edge thickness being, what was it, like 15 thousandths of an inch, actually makes it thinner than a PM2. So yeah, quite a slicey blade. I'd like to very quickly check the sharpness of it. I have been using it, as you can tell, cutting through tape and whatnot. This little tip right here is absolutely fantastic for dipping into materials very lightly. So just like this, it's almost like a secondary tip. You can see I just barely scored in there. Yeah, really useful. The sort of Americanized Tanto shape is very utilitarian, as it turns out. So let's grab a piece of paper. Here's a sheet of paper for us to cut on. Yeah, really sharp. And this is still wearing the factory edge. I think I stropped it lightly with some green chromium oxide compound, but really nothing crazy. It's yeah, quite a nice cut as well. The tip, super sharp, very fine cutting ability, and just sinks itself into material. There, let me try and get a shot of that. Absolutely just penetrates, no problem. So yeah, quite a nice knife for just walking around the house. So because I've only stropped it, it means I haven't yet sharpened this blade. So I can't quite say how S35VN is going to sharpen up, because this is the first knife I've ever had that uses this steel. And I wanted to draw attention to it because it's an American-made steel that China had to purchase from us to make this design. So kind of a win-win there. Let me do a few cardboard cuts just to test the performance. So I marked these off so that I wouldn't be confused as to what this knife was doing. Wow, yeah, that bites in very quickly. You can get some very fine cutting as well as very long slice cuts. Yeah, the tip is just as sharp. However, the sort of taper on this gets fat very quickly as you ride up the blade. So not quite as slicey as the main flat portion of this blade. However, it's good to go, no problem. And like I said, you can score and sink into material using this secondary tip where the two blade grinds meet. Very nice for scoring. I don't know if it'll be handy for everyone, but yeah, some people are gonna like that, including me. Let's talk about the handles now. So this is an unnamed, undescript titanium. It does appear to be gray, which I would believe to be plain sort of bead blasted titanium. I would suspect that this can be anodized, and you can bet I'm going to try it. So stay tuned for that on the channel at some point, hopefully this year. Let's take a little bit closer look at the aesthetic of the handle, because it's quite interesting. I like the flat bead blast finish. It gives it just a little bit of texture instead of being just sort of smooth metal, sort of like the bezel over here. As you can see, the pivot has a collar on it, which is like a nice, almost sky blue. yeah, very appealing and adds a much needed touch of color to an otherwise monotone design. I do like the grooves right here, these milled cutouts. This would reduce the weight of the design to have these portions cut out. And as you can see a little bit, if I tilt this just right, inside of here you can see it's milled out on the handles as well to lighten up the weight. That's how it's under 3.5 ounces, is because they have greatly reduced the volume of titanium in the handle while making it pretty appealing aesthetically as well. I do like the little sort of step downs here for the lock bar cutout. You can see that's where the spring action originates for the frame lock. If I had one critique of the handle, I would say it's a little bit crowded. I have a medium-sized hand, or, wear a medium-sized glove, I guess you could put it that way. So if you're any bigger than my hand, you're probably not going to have much real estate left on this knife. I have maybe another finger, a half a finger if you have really large mitts. So, take that as you need to for your own personal preferences. One last thing about this handle, it is a bit narrow in terms of like this dimension, and that always gives me trouble with frame locks. When I went to deploy this originally, I ended up crowding my fingers onto the lock bar and pressing it closed as I was trying to open it. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I found with experience I'm able to fire this thing out no problem. Let's talk for a second about the hardware on this knife. This was kind of weird for me and would otherwise be a deal breaker if I didn't like this design so much, but Torx head here, Torx head here, they look exactly the same because this is a free spinning pivot. Yeah, on a knife worth $170, that's should have been a deal breaker. Luckily, Kizer did everything else really nicely on this blade, and honestly, I got over it. I've disassembled this knife, I've made peace with it. But if a free spinning pivot is a deal breaker for you, now you know. On the show side of this knife, I really appreciate that there are very few body screws. We have 2 on either side of this lanyard cutout, and also the lanyard cutout is not its own feature of the design. I hate when there's like allowance made for a lanyard hole just to like make it a feature. It's like it holds a piece of rope. Like no one cares what it looks like. At least I don't. On the reverse side, there is quite a bit of hardware, but that's not much of a problem. It just makes me feel like the clip is secure and the insert is secure. And I think the back side, sort of business in the front, party in the back, if you will. There's a lot of sculptural elements going on in here. And yeah, I appreciate both sides of this knife in terms of their hardware design. Another thing I like is the lock bar insert. That means we're going to get good, reliable lockup, and if I needed to, I could probably get a new lock bar insert from Kizer. Here in 2021, relations with China are not what they used to be, so I've never even considered using the warranty, but yeah, maybe I could make use of it. I don't know. Let's put a question mark on that one. The clip on this guy is a milled out titanium clip, same type of titanium and the same finish as the body. Makes it very svelte, and sleek, and kind of blends in with the rest of the design, which I like. I don't need a clip to be a standout feature of a blade. I need it to function, and this one does it beautifully. Pretty deep carry with a little bit sticking out. Oh, hello, Zebulon. My cat is investigating. Hi, Zeb. He's a very curious boy. Hello. Alright, I gotta get you out of the shot. Okay, had to put the cat away there. Still talking about the clip, I do appreciate that this is mostly deep carry. There's a little bit that sticks out of the pocket. Not much of a problem. Let's cut to a shot of that right now. Now that you've seen it in pocket, I think you can see what I'm talking about. It's a very quiet carry. It's a nice clip, nice and firm without being overdone. Yeah, just good. It's exactly what I need out of a pocket clip and nothing more. So let's talk about this opening issue, because this was my biggest problem with this blade, and when I first got it, I thought it might have been a deal breaker. I was really struggling to open this knife. Let me show you why. My instinct was to hold the knife like this and to flip it like so. As you can see, not getting anywhere, fingers turning white. It's not deploying. What's going on? Well, as I normally grip a knife, like a liner lock, I do this. I put my fingers on the opposite side, kind of squeeze down on the clip, and I put pressure right here. Now on this knife, since it's thin, that's the lock bar. So I was literally pushing the detent ball into the blade and working against myself to try and get this knife open. What I had to learn to do, muscle memory wise, with this blade is to, instead of opening it sort of this way, I need to open it sideways. That way I can rest my fingers a little more gently sort of on the clip and then get my finger in here and hit the tab. And the flipping mechanism is actually very reliable as long as you are not pressing on the lock side. So yeah, no problems now, but definitely took me a week of fiddling with it and trying to figure out the exact formula for getting this guy open. So if you have the same problem, just remember it will come with time. And trust me, you'll be flipping this a lot. The detent and the ball bearing pivot are very, very smooth. So overall, the build quality is fantastic for this blade, and I'm just enjoying the crap out of it. If I could say one bad thing about the clip, I do wish there were more clip positions, but I don't hate not having a whole bunch of other random clip positions milled into the handle and just sort of sitting vacant while it's only in one position. So kind of a trade-off there. I do think the clip shows manufacturing skill, because you can sort of go the Spyderco route and just throw on any old wire clip and, you know, call it a day. But, you know, they went out of their way and 3D milled some titanium, so I do appreciate that. In terms of the accessories that come with this knife, you saw the packaging at the beginning. It comes with a whole bunch of stuff. The packaging includes a nice black box, a microfiber polishing cloth with the Kizer brand logo, a information packet with black and white photos, and a Velcro knife pouch. And I gotta say, I enjoy that. It gives this knife a more premium presentation, and then the feel of this blade also just adds to that credibility that Kizer has built over the years of building really high quality blades for reasonable prices. So you can get this blade in other finishes. They literally just came out with a shredded carbon fiber liner lock version of this, and if I'm going to be honest with you, I would recommend that one, because then you don't even have to worry about the opening muscle memory like I talked about earlier. You can just have a liner lock that you can disengage and flip to your heart's content. So yeah, plus it's shredded carbon fiber, and who doesn't love that? The fit and finish on this guy is perfect. I mean, look at it. I've been turning it around the whole video. I think you can tell everything from the barrel spacers in the handle, to the lock mechanism, to the pivot, to the blade grind, the handle milling, everything is just flawlessly done, and I could find no faults with it. And that's reassuring at this price point. That is what I would expect, and I am very glad to see it once again here. I think the aesthetics of this blade are killer, and I think it looks fast. That's how I would describe it. The long tapered point, the very thin long handle, especially with this continuous spine on here. Yeah, just give it an impression of sort of moving forward in this direction. And yeah, I gotta say, it's just a well-composed, well-built knife overall. Here's that drop shot action again. Blade centering is looking perfect. Perfect blade centering. No issues. I have taken this apart, fully tightened down the pivot, and this is how it lands, just in perfect shape. Now let's do a couple of size comparisons, and then we'll wrap it up. Let's bring in another high-end knife, the WE Knives Praktik. Have a special edition Boker Kalashnikov. The Honey Badger in large. Opinel, a French design, but a classic. That's the number 8. Have a Victorinox Swiss Champ. This is an 89mm length tool. It's the big one. So, a little size comparison for you. Here's an unusual blade, Cold Steel 4-inch Tylite. Ooh, baby, that's a big one. But I think you can see now the sheer scale of this one and how it is just a little too big for most people and places. Here's the CRKT LCK. This is an excellent budget blade. Spyderco Paramilitary 2. This is my very, very modified version. Okay people, time for my final verdict here. This is a great knife, and at $144 over the holiday season, it was even more worth it. Hello again, Zebulon. So yeah, the Kizer Begleiter is an excellent blade. I am very glad to see this design updated and upgraded, because this was a budget blade for a long time, and I'm really excited that they carried this design over to a more premium platform. And yeah, really looking forward to carrying it a whole bunch. I've mostly been carrying it at the house because of the size of it, and because I don't want anything to happen to it. I like it so much. Give me a couple years, I'll lose my protective nature over this thing, and I'm sure I'll get it to work. Alright, anyway, that's been my knife review for the Kizer Begleiter. If you enjoyed this review, please hit like and give the channel a subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I do other content on this channel as well. I collect fountain pens and stationery and all kinds of things. So if that is also your jam, and maybe you like multi-tools, Leathermans, Victorinox, etc., please stick around. I really appreciate your support. Alright, thank you for watching. I've been Joe. You've been watching my channel, Ink and Iron, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.